What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. It's me, your boy, the Retro Slasher, and I'm coming back at you guys with a brand new video today, as you can tell. Yes, so the last 2 weeks or so, I've been having some fun making some top 30 lists based on my favorite slashers from the 80s and my favorite slashers from post 2000s. So I decided to do something a little different here and have some fun on my channel. And on that list of the post 2000 slashers, I had quite a few remakes, which might be shocking to some of you guys, but if you really think about it, there's some really solid remakes in the 2000s of slasher films. So, like I said, I'm gonna have a little fun here. So I decided to take all the slasher remakes from the last whatever couple 10 years or so that there is and rank them from the worst to the best. I thought it'd be a pretty fun thing to do because there's a few stinkers in there, some really excellent films in that whatever you want to call it, that remake phase that horror went through in the mid to late 2000s. So I'm not sure if I got every single one here. I just took the ones that I owned, and some are maybe at least one film on this list you might question if it's a slash or not, but it kind of gets labeled as one, so I decided to include it into this list. But with all that nonsense being said, let's have some fun and rank the worst remake slasher to the best. There might be some surprises on to how high I rank different ones. So let's get into it with the number. Don't even remember how many there is. I think there's 12 of them in total. So I guess number 12. So the worst remake slasher of all time, in my opinion, goes to this lovely film called April Fool's Day. Now, the original film actually being one of my favorite all-time slasher films, the remake here did not do a good job. This movie is pretty fucking terrible. The acting's atrocious. It's shot poorly. They changed the whole story up kind of, and did this whole weird eyes wide shot gimmick masquerade party shit. Yeah, this movie's pretty fucking terrible. I really don't recommend you guys picking it up. I bought it used for like $2. Figured I'd give it a shot since it's a remake of my one of my all-time favorite slasher films. Glad I fucking didn't overpay for this, but I'm kind of glad I didn't pay too much because this movie's really fucking bad, man. Words don't even describe how terrible that film is, in my opinion. All right, next up on the list is a film. At the time it came out, I kind of personally did like it, but watching it a bunch of times since then and seeing the original many times more since this film came out, I've really have disdain for this film. This movie's pretty shitty remake since the original film, such a classic film, and that is The Stepfather. Now, The Stepfather, the original, always gets questioned or not whether or not it's a true blown slasher. It's kind of like a proto-ish slasher with some thriller elements to it, not a whole high body count and everything, but it's definitely influenced by slasher films. And this one, they kind of took the same tone and it turned it into a full-blown slasher, but it still has all the same elements as the original, just done really poorly. Really shitty casting. Yeah, man, the guy that played the stepfather, I forget the name off the top of my head right now, but yeah, Terry O'Quinn's definitely the way better stepfather than this guy ever could imagine to be. Bad film again. I'm gonna take a puff of my cigarette. Oh, all right. Next up here on the list, now is a film in the horror community that gets talked up quite a bit, has been discussed a million times from front to back, over and over again. People have ripped this film apart. People have praised this film. I don't know what they see in it too much. Honestly, it's not a bad film. It's just the original's held in such high standards. It's one of the greatest horror films of all time, and just the cat. When I show the film, you're gonna know exactly what I'm talking about, and that is the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. Yes. Dude, the dude they got to play Freddy Krueger in this movie sucked. That's the biggest problem with this film. He's an unbelievable character. He just does not deliver the Freddy character like Freddy's supposed to be delivered. The film itself is really pretty well done and pretty well written. I kind of like to add the little story they added to Freddy's backstory in this a little bit more. Get into it a little bit more in this film, but yet again, I could care less because the guy that played Freddy in this is the all-time worst Freddy of all the movies. I know they all played by Robin Englund before, but as the original franchise went on, Freddy got more goofier and goofier and campy-ish. And he tried to be too serious and too campy at the same time with his stupid one-liners in this one. Not a really good remake. Good film, but a remake, no, not a good remake. Next up here on the list, it's a film that actually, a remake I actually like a lot more than the original film. It's low on this list because I don't really care for the original film, and this film's okay, I guess. It's not anything special. It's a better remake, in my opinion, than the original, and that is the Prom Night. Now, the original Prom Night gets such high praise, and in my opinion, extremely overrated. People slate that as being one of the best slasher films of all time. Far from it, in my opinion. But Prom Night, the remake, I actually do like a lot better for some reason. I don't know why. I know that I might be in the minority there. Might be the only person that likes this film. But I like the whole slasher element in this one and the setting in that hotel and whatever. The casting's so-so. It's not the greatest casting, and it's pretty typical shit for this era of film. But yeah, I personally like the Prom Night remake. Right, next up here on the list is a remake, kind of in name only, really nothing to do with the original film at all. But that is the Silent Night remake. Of course, Silent Night, Deadly Night being one of my all-time favorite slashers and my favorite Christmas holiday horror film. This is not a bad remake, a lot different. It's got some cool camera art to it. Of course, Malcolm McDonald's in this, and a bunch of other random faces you might recognize. It's pretty bloody and gory, a way different tone than the original, but still a pretty solid remake in my opinion. Alright, next up here on the list is the film that I said that you might question if it's a slasher or not. It has slasher elements to it, I suppose. It's kind of more of a thriller than a full-blown horror movie, but that is When a Stranger Calls. Now, the original film gets labeled as a kind of like a proto-ish slasher type film. This one has a little bit more slashing elements to it than the original film does. But this is a pretty solid remake. I don't mind this film. I don't really hear too many people talk about it. Maybe it just got lost in time or whatever. But it's not really a bad film at all. I kind of like it. My cigarette went out. I shouldn't be smoking and making videos. Oh well. Next up here on the list is a film that's yet again really remake in name only. But that is Sorority Row. Now, this is kind of a loosely based remake on House on Sorority Row, which is yet again one of my all-time favorite slasher films. This remake's pretty cool, man. It's not that bad, especially for the time period it came out. Yet again, a lot of your typical casting for this era. Just this whole era of film and these remakes, they didn't do the best casting job, but it does have a lot of beautiful chicks in it. And it kind of, like, I'm not a fan of the TV show called Pretty Little Liars, but that Pretty Little Liars show kind of, like, pretty much ripped this movie off, in my opinion, of what I've seen of it. Yeah, I dig this film. It's not that bad, man. I know it gets a lot of hate, but it's a lot better than people give it credit for, in my opinion. Alright, next up here on the list. Now, yet again, another film. People argue whether or not it's in a full-blown remake or anything at all. It might just be, all these fucking words they make up, rebirth or whatever, reboot, or whatever. It's a remake to me because they kind of dove into a new origin story in this one, and that is the Friday 13th remake. Now, the first 20 minutes or so of this film is some of the best filmmaking I've ever seen, especially in slasher films. It's just excellent. After that, I know everybody says this before, kind of just goes downhill from there. But I kind of like how they portray Jason in this. A little unique and different than your traditional Jason. I think he runs in this one. It's been a while since I checked this one out, but whatever. He's pretty badass in it. The kills are pretty cool. Pays homage with the kills to some of the previous films in the franchise. But, yeah, not a bad remake. Should have been a lot better, man. There's a lot of hype behind this. I remember when this came out, people were hyping this shit up like it was the best thing since sliced bread. Not bread's better, but this is still a pretty solid remake. Alright, next up here on the list is a film that I actually like a lot, and I don't really know too much how much other people feel about it. I know things I've heard about it, people don't really like it too much, since the original is such a classic film. The original was kind of one of the first films of its kind. Of course, that is Black Christmas, and this is known as Black Xmas. Yes, it's pretty much the same exact film. They add a little bit different things to this. They have some like goofy comedy elements to it, involving the killer with the whole cookies and shit that they do in this one. But this movie is beautifully shot. It has some of the best looking girls in a slasher film, in my opinion. Some pretty gnarly kills in it. The mother character is really strange in this film. Um, it's just the whole lighting in this film is so done well, man. Very, very good remake. I don't know why people don't really care for this film too much. Yet again, it might be one of those ones that got lost in time and people forget about. But I think it's a pretty solid remake and actually a good film. Yeah, right. Next up here on the list, the next three films probably won't be just any surprise to anybody, but whatever. Next up on the list is, of course, yet again, a remake of one of my all-time favorite slasher films, especially from the 80s, or just in one of the best standalone slashers ever made, and they decided to remake it and kind of did a really good job and made probably one of the best remakes of all time, in my opinion, and that is My Bloody Valentine 3D remake. Yes, I just talked about this film recently in my post-2000 slasher film, so not going to go too much in it, but it's a really, really good remake, man. Really bloody and gory. Yeah, good stuff, man. Can't go wrong with this film. Yet again, I wish I could see this film in 3D, but that's just never gonna meant to happen. So, whatever. And I'm really surprised they never continued to make a sequel to this film, because when it came out, it got a lot of positive reviews, and people really enjoyed this film. I figured for sure maybe the remake would start a franchise, considering the original never did. But who knows? Maybe one day it happened. But probably a little past its time now. But who knows? Really good shit. Alright, I'm going to speed up here a little bit because I don't want to make extremely long videos. Next up is, no surprise, the Maniac remake. Like I said in my top 30 list, just beautifully shot film. The whole POV idea behind this is really good. Elijah Woods really does a really good job in this film. Just a really beautiful film, man, for some pretty intense moments in this one, man. Good stuff, man. The whole hallucinations, whatever, he's seeing all these people haunting him and whatever, just really good stuff, man. Just really, really well made film that nobody thought they were gonna like at all. I remember when this came out, everybody was downplaying it, saying, why the fuck did they gonna remake Maniac? But turned out to be one of the best films of 2013, I believe. If it's 2013, it might be my favorite movie from that year, because I don't really remember too many other films from 2013 besides this one. So yeah, the Maniac remake. And of course, number one of my all-time favorite horror movies, just not slasher movies, the movie that started the whole slasher movement, pretty much. Of course, you get the nods to Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Black Christmas, and before that you got Psycho and Peepin' Tom, and before that you got all these other Strangler films and everything like that. And Last House on the Left, things from the 70s influenced the slasher genre, but this movie started the craze, and the original did. And that is the remake of Halloween. Like I said, it was my number one in my top 30 slashers of all time from the 2000s. Just a really solid remake. The whole Michael Myers backstory as a kid, really good stuff, man. Second half of the film, like I said, is just a pretty much shot for shot remake with a few different things added to it to prolong it, in my opinion. But the way they just made Michael Myers in this movie is so good. He's just so brutal and so nasty and so violent, man. So number one is Halloween. I just realized I probably could have included Halloween 2 in this list as well, because technically it's a remake. But who cares? That would have been on the list too. Probably would have been a lot lower on the list, ranked lower. So yeah, my number one ranked slasher remake of all time, Halloween. Probably one of the best remakes of all time too. So that's been my list. Hope you guys let me know what you guys think about my ranking here. But yeah, if you want me to continue to doing this stuff and rank other things, maybe rank a franchise or something like that, definitely let me know in the comments down below, because it seems like a lot of fun to do. I like ranking things. It's kind of like a thing I like to do, you know. So until next time, guys. See you guys later. Stay slashing fools, peeps.